Welcome to the March 14th, 2022 City of Tualatin work session. Tonight's first item of business is the Tualatin City Council 2030 Vision Check-in and Progress Report, led off by our City Manager, Cheryl Lombos.
Yes, thank you. I think, Megan, you're going to share a screen. So we have a presentation for you. First, I want to credit you, the council, on being focused on some high-level vision statements and goals. That's not always the case in jurisdictions or cities or organizations. And so every 2 years, you revisit your vision and your priorities, and they're high level enough to allow for flexibility, and they're not prescriptive. And yet they're specific enough to help keep us all focused. And your vision statements and your priorities are really an important part of our organizational culture. And we talk about them regularly. And appreciate the fact that you as a council are focused on these high-level, important priorities and goals. So we usually do a gathering every year of the council and the exec team. And one of the things we always cover is highlights of what has happened over the past year and kind of what's coming. Unfortunately, we aren't able to get together this year in that format, but I still think it's important to take a minute to review our accomplishments and to talk about what's currently happening and what's in the queue. So we've got the entire exec team assembled here, and they are going to take some time to talk about, they're going to read the vision statement and then talk about some highlights of what has been passed and what has been accomplished and what is currently on our plate and what is to come, focused on associated with the vision statements. So I think with that setup, I will turn it over to who is ever going to take the next one. I don't have the list in front of me, but raise your hand and go for it.
So I'll start speaking, but Jerry Ann also is partnering with me on this this slide. So the first item we're addressing is an inclusive community that promotes equity, diversity, and access in creating a meaningful quality of life for everyone. And as we progress through these slides, you'll see that we've presented them in a fashion of completed, ongoing, and upcoming. And I think Jerry Ann has the first one that she wanted to address.
I do. Thank you, Stacy. So one of the ways the City of Tualatin supports an inclusive community and meaningful quality of life is through programs that bring people together and provide opportunities for learning. Throughout the pandemic, city staff have found creative ways to keep residents engaged, and they've continued to participate in these programs. The Juanita Poll Center had more than 2,100 participants in their programs last year, and the library had more than 400 participants in science-based learning outreach programs. Back to you, Stacy.
Yeah. So one of the first listed in the ongoing is that of the organizational diversity, equity, and inclusion work. From our council meeting, I think it was our last council meeting, we brought SciComs, maybe it was 2 council meetings ago, in to give us a quick update. We've really taken this initiative to heart and are really taking an inward focus to really dive into the organization and make sure that we are working for the diversity, equity, inclusion work and implementing it into all that we do and trying to include it in all of our frameworks and our planning and our thinking. And so we're diving into that as part of our ongoing work.
And coming down the pipe, we've got some training opportunities for city staff. Training is an important way to reinforce our DEI values. And I'm excited to share with you that the city has been working in partnership with Portland Community College to bring an introductory Spanish language class series for staff. It's going to begin in early April, and this class will help frontline staff in several departments better communicate with local Spanish-speaking residents.
So we'll jump in here with Megan and I doing the next section, which is a connected, informed, and civically engaged community that embraces our city's diversity. And the city has continued engaging with our citizens through the newsletters and virtual public meetings and surveys and the Tualatin Moving Forward and other project-specific engagements. But this last year during the ice storm cleanup, we interacted and engaged with the city through our amazing volunteer program. Everyone showed up and did a tremendous amount of work, and it was all coordinated and communicated. Using our volunteer program, using the CERT team, using Neighborhood Ready team. And in this upcoming year, we'll continue to do all of those same things, hopefully not the ice storm, but we'll continue to do all of those things as well as participate in some regional emergency drills for the city and for the CERT team, as well as some radio tests to make sure that there's communication active in those times of emergency.
Yeah, I'll jump here on one of our ongoing priorities is project-specific public engagement plans. So people are reached in a variety of different formats, and oftentimes layering those formats is the most effective way to make sure that we are engaging with them on issues that are of importance. And so for many of our projects and for our programs, we develop customized plans for that so that we're reaching the right people at the right time in the right format. Looking forward into this next year, we are targeting spring of 2023 to do the next Tualatin Community Survey using the National Research Center's templates. This will be the 5th time that we have completed the survey, so we've got pretty robust data. So we're looking forward to doing that.
I have, I have the next one, which is a thriving and diversified economy that includes living wage jobs, increased tourism, and sustained financial stability for the whole city. On the next slide, you will see some of the projects that we have completed that are ongoing and upcoming. I could have just brought Jonathan Taylor along for a number of these and stood him up and just let you look at him and talk about him, but he's off vacationing, so I'll talk about a few of those here. The first one on the list there of being completed is the Southwest and Basalt Creek development area. This was our new urban renewal district that you approved the plan in August of 2021. It's a 717 acre plan area. The process for creating this district included an area study, multiple touch points with the City Council and the Tualatin Development Commission, as well as the involvement of a working group, which was part of one of the 5 goals of the plan, which are public involvement, employment, land development, transportation infrastructure, utility infrastructure, as well as developer assistance and incentives. That was quite an exciting project that again was wrapped up in August, and we look forward to all the projects that we'll be able to complete in that area as development occurs. On the ongoing area, we have the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds. We received $6.2 million total. We received the first tranche of $3.1 million in August of 2021, and we'll receive the second tranche of $3.1 million this coming August. Last fall, the council established the guiding principles for the use of these funds, which was alignment with the council vision and priorities that we're talking about this evening. One-time programs and projects. We're leveraging multiple funding sources to combine with ARPA funds, to be innovative, proactive, and strategic. So we want to really think through how we want to utilize these funds. We're seeking partnerships and collaborative solutions with other communities around, as well as other organizations that may be utilizing funds or have projects that we could partner with. And we're coordinating with all those local partners. A couple of the identified projects that you talked about, or we talked about with you in the fall, was a water line to support affordable housing, also utilizing ARPA funds as part of the funding for the Stone Ridge Park renovation project. So we have some exciting things coming up, of which you've heard recently about the prosperity planning and core opportunity and reinvestment area. This is a look at ways to establish and fund projects to create an active civic core, and the following values, which were identified through, again, plan studies and small group meetings with the council. And we're also working to set up a working group for this project as well. Those values that have been identified through those work groups and through your discussions were more housing, enhanced connectivity, to foster, create, and promote community identity, maintain and grow existing employment lands, leave no existing businesses behind, and ensure that everyone has access to success. One potential funding source is an urban renewal district in this area as well, which is currently being evaluated for this area.
Our next vision is a safe, vibrant, and accessible gathering places throughout the city that build and celebrate our whole community. In the past year, the city has had several construction projects completed, bringing more gathering places for our community. The biggest project was our Tualatin City Services Building, where a 9,500 square foot addition to the existing 5,000 square foot structure provided space for approximately 50 employees and a new home for municipal court. The City Services Building also allows a one-stop location for permitting and easy access for the development community. And now I'll pass it to Ross for the rest of this slide.
Thank you, Jerry-Ann. Also completed or in the works or ongoing are the Holiday Lights Parade. This program really was born out of the need to rethink how we do events during COVID, and it's continuing and was really successful in the last year. Summer concert series, the summer lunch program at the library also continues to be very successful. On an ongoing basis, our Basalt Creek Parks and Recreation Plan that Council and Mayor that you accepted a month ago or so, we will continue to work on that, incorporating it into our city's comp plan. The traffic signal box wrap program, the Veterans Memorial, Veterans Plaza, and the different events and activities and programs throughout our community, including Viva Tualatin, do-it-yourself volunteering, and the Share the Love event that just wrapped up. And as we look forward, upcoming gathering places and activities include the not so glamorous replacement of the police department roof, but very much needed investments in our buildings and our facilities in our city. The Stone Ridge Park construction documents will be in the works, and we are continuing to work on bringing that project to fruition. And a variety of parks utility fee projects that we will that you will consider during the budget process for this upcoming fiscal year. The Browns Ferry Boardwalk replacement, which we are inching closer towards reality for that project, and looking forward to having a safe, walkable path and boardwalk for people at Browns Ferry Park. And then we look forward to in-person programming coming up and launching very soon at the library and at the Poll Center, and launching our summer slate of activities in the city, our Blender Dash, starting in June with a series of events and activities. So very much still very vibrant place and gathering spaces and things for people to do in the community, bringing people together and encouraging healthy activities in our community.
So transportation, we would like to have an efficient, accessible, innovative, sustainable, and connected transportation system that effectively and safely meets the needs of our entire community. So some of the ways that that's being done, the Garden Corner Curves project was just completed. That's a 12-foot wide bike ped path. And along with that is kind of a value added project where that's your goal is bike ped, but then we replaced the storm culvert that was squashed with a box culvert that provides safer fish passage. We constructed a larger water quality facility than necessary, and that provides treatment of upstream neighborhood area of 5 acres that doesn't get treatment now, so it'll go into this new facility. Another innovative thing that's happened at Boones Ferry Road and Arapahoe was the rectangular rapid flashing beacons has a pole on it, and they added streetlights to that pole, and they're solar. So that's kind of exciting. I don't think we've ever done one of those kinds of projects before. Ongoing, we've got the Boones Ferry Corridor Sidewalk and Bike Lane project. So we'll be filling gaps there this summer and next. And then a non-bond related project is the Herman Road improvements. Also bike ped focused. We got a grant from Metro for that purpose. And then with the Leviton Urban Renewal dollars, council approved the construction, which we hope will happen next year. Upcoming neighborhoods traffic safety program projects. They've picked about 6 to proceed with, and one of them will be in the Stone Ridge community, but we haven't talked to that community yet to see what traffic safety measures they'd like to have in their community.
So for our neighborhoods, we want safe, desirable, welcoming, and sustainable neighborhoods with housing that is available to all. So a few things that we've had going on specifically within the police department. With your support, we're able to start up the police mental health response team. You know, I'm very proud that we took the lead on that and making that happen with Tigard and Sherwood, and to really make sure those resources are available on the south end of the county. We unfortunately deal with a lot of people that are struggling with mental health issues, and this is just one additional resource that we have. Our police officers have done a great job over the years, but they might not always be the best solution for some of these problems that we're facing these days. So this is a good resource that we'll have available to us. We've had ongoing discussions with the community task force about our school resource officer program. A lot of those conversations have been based on what that program has been doing over the years and really what it could look like in the future. A lot of people don't realize how big just Tualatin High School is. There's 2,000 kids there every single day, plus the staff. There's a lot goes on in that high school, and I think the SROs are doing a great job. They make good positive impacts and have a lot of good contacts throughout the day with the students and the staff there. And then we've got our body camera program just a matter of days or weeks away. We received the cameras. There's 3 times there will be, activated automatically if an officer was to draw their handgun or activate their taser or turn the lights on in the police vehicles. It'll automatically activate the cameras. So we've got the cameras. We're just waiting on a few more pieces of those types of equipment to show up so we can roll that program out. It's just going to be one more way that we can make sure we're being as transparent and accountable to the community as much as possible. Kim?
So in addition to that great work around housing, it says completed. 400 unit subdivision in Basalt Creek was approved, but I feel like we're just beginning. We got in a 130-page set of plans for engineering to review, and we're working on their permit package with them now. The middle housing code updates council's adopted and they're in effect. And then in ongoing, most of you are familiar with CEPA, the Community Partners for Affordable Housing. And going back to Don's slide, some of that assistance for the water line and also helping them solve their sanitary sewer issues out there. Staff has worked with them for the last couple of years, and I'm happy to say their application came in last week, so that's pretty exciting. And then upcoming, we've got the Equitable Housing Funding Plan. We'll be working with Eco Northwest. That gives us tools for best practices, and it's about finding ways to reduce financial and regulatory impediments to affordable housing, and also creation of financial and regulatory incentives for affordable housing, hoping to increase the supply of that much needed housing in Tualatin.
So our final vision statement for the council is the vision statement that says that the environmentally active, sustainable, responsible, and forward-thinking community that values and protects natural resources, inhabitants, and habitat. And I'll kick it to Rachel to start.
So there's been a lot of great work to move the city towards this vision statement, with obviously a lot more work to go. But 2 events to point out were actually unexpected environmental hazards that the city staff responded to in the past year. The first was a chemical spill into Fano Creek from a nearby roofing project. If you may recall, it turned the stream orange. Staff worked through the cleanup process with many regional agencies, Oregon DEQ, among others, to ensure that the area was fully cleaned up. So that takes up staff time, and we want to make sure that we're cleaning those areas up and responding as necessary. And the second response was a diesel spill into the Hedges Creek wetland off of 90th Avenue in December, causing another cleanup effort that included regional involvement from ODFW and DEQ. These responses illustrate, I think, the multifaceted nature of this vision statement and these goals, as I think it's important to point out that proactive and reactive work are required for success. So we can plan for the future, but we also need to respond to what's going on the day-to-day to ensure that we are keeping a clean and sustainable community that all of our residents can enjoy.
Like Rachel said, we interacted with a lot of partners, but additionally, we also partnered with Metro, Washington County Waste Dollars Association. We continue with Republic Services and the Partners for a Sustainable Washington County. And through these, we're able to enforce message, act as a liaison for the citizens about ongoing and upcoming initiatives around topics like business food scrap programs or the expansion of waste services to the homes and to the businesses. And within the city, we continue to utilize our amazing volunteers, like I said on an earlier slide, our volunteers and staff. And they help maintain our facilities, our parks, using sustainable environmental products and practices. Some of those include expanding our solar usage also at the city buildings, exploring electrification of our fleet, as well as maintaining our accreditations as the Bee City for the past 3 years and Tree City for the past 30 years.
So we're also in the process of developing several plans that will guide our city into the future and keep this vision statement at top of mind. The Climate Action Plan, as you know, is in progress with plan development and outreach activities ramping up in the coming months. So you'll be hearing from staff about that. Our Water Master Plan is close to finalized and will guide our upcoming development of the water system to accommodate growth and also increase resiliency of this extremely critical system. Lastly, the Stormwater Master Plan is in the process of being updated to include the Basalt Creek area and plans for stormwater infrastructure that will be necessary for the area as it grows. So now we'll kick it back to Sherilyn to wrap up our presentation.
Well, as you know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that's been accomplished and a lot to come. And that wasn't even, a comprehensive list. I am really proud of the work of the organization, but it's guided by what you set before us. So thank you for that. And I also want to call out Megan for her putting together the slides in the presentation. And with that, I think that's what we have for you.
Questions or comments for city staff and Sherilyn? Councilor Brooks and Council President Grimes.
Thank you, everybody that presented and for all the work. I think this year it's tough that we are not able to meet in person or even virtually for our advance like we normally do. And that being said, I'm really confident that we're moving in the right direction towards our goals and the work that everyone's done. I said this to somebody the other day, the first 2 years, I don't know if it's that I didn't notice as well or if it's an actual fact, but I just feel as though the amount of work that's been very tailored and reflective of our vision feels vast, and I just appreciate the leadership of all of you to make that happen. It's really meaningful. I'm so proud to be able to say what it is that we're up to and what it is that we've gotten done, and in a way that is inclusive and resilient and remarkable during such a challenging moment in our shared history together. So I'm really proud to be able to share this moment with you guys, and the work, you know, whether it's the makerspace in the library, the parks work that we're doing, the climate action plan, of course, I'm tickled about, and then just the responsiveness not only to COVID and ice storms, but chemical spills, and just being on it. So, and clearly communicating it to us. So although I miss it this year, in the Bee City, I really appreciate the work, and I know that all of us feel that the staff here just couldn't, or the council here just couldn't be prouder of our staff and our directors being such inspiring and dynamic and effective leaders. So thank you.
President Grimes.
Thank you for the presentation. I have to admit, when you think back what the last 2 years have dished out for everyone, and you look at the list of accomplishments, it's just extraordinary. I mean, quite literally, it just makes me feel like my heart is bursting with pride. I mean, for an organization to have achieved that in 5 or 10 years would be fantastic, but to think that, oh, this is just what we've been up to the last year and a half, you know, it's amazing. And, you know, they're all projects that absolutely enhance quality of life for everyone that lives in this city. I mean, transportation projects that are done on time, on budget, under budget, you know, community projects, outreach, creative and helpful programs like having the Spanish language classes as an opportunity for employees. It's all fantastic. And, you know, it was all sort of a dreamscape, I think, for a lot of us counselors, of, you know, aspirational ideas that we would like to see from the community. And you guys made it happen. And I am so grateful and just absolutely overwhelmed by what you guys have been able to achieve and what that's meant for the people that live here. And I can't say thank you enough. And I'm so proud. And yet I am so incredibly excited to see what the next couple of years brings. Being able to come out of, you know, the pandemic and the economic crisis and everything else that's been happening. And then now we have sort of a, you know, an exciting next couple years in front of us. And I just think, gosh, if we can, you know, create the kind of positive achievements of this recent past with all the difficulties, imagine what we've got looking forward in the future. And with the parks, library, I'm just super excited. And I just want to say thank you all so much. Your commitment and your hard work, really, the achievements are amazing and greatly appreciated.
Other comments or questions? Councilor Pratt.
I'm just amazed at how many things have been accomplished, especially over the last couple of years with COVID and a divisive society and what fires and ice and everything else. And it's just amazing what you've accomplished. And I just things are coming to mind as the other counselors were talking, and it's just amazing, like what, how flexible and resilient you all were to like I'm thinking of the library and parks and how you kept programs going in our community engaged when we couldn't see each other in person. And I know like the library had lunches there, or had the little open window for a while there, and all kinds of really cool stuff. And then Dawn with the budget, especially that first year where it was like, like we don't know what's going to happen with our economy. It's all changed. There's no real path to what was going to happen. And then, Chief Steele with all the stuff you dealt with and, that use of force thing when all those issues were going on. I thought that was, just stepping in and be willing to outreach to our community and being transparent. I thought that was just wonderful. And then I guess everybody and back to Sherilyn again, but just how, and Mary and Megan, and how you guys just grab on to our climate action plan, or when we wanted a DEI task force in that to move forward, you just stepped in and helped us. And I feel there really is that focus on our goals, and it's very well appreciated.
Other comments? All right, I just want to, as someone has said before, thank you all for adhering to the council's vision. We had a pretty aggressive list of items we wanted to get done over the 2 years, and you guys are implementing it terrifically well, despite all the challenges and stuff thrown at you. But I'm very proud of, that those bullet points from a year ago that we had on our priorities, a lot of them are in motion, already done, or about to get done in the coming year. That's just a lot better organization, as people said before, that, Sherilyn guiding with senior management, we're getting the things done for the community that the community desires, and we see terrific results. So I thank you all for everything you've done over this past year, despite all the challenges, and making a lot of these programs super successful. And you're a terrific team. All right. Councilor Pratt.
To call Bates, where would we be without our Zoom king?
Hopefully Bates will be out of a job here in another month or two. As for Zoom king. As we transition back to in-person meetings, which is going to be really weird. All right. Well, thank you all for attending tonight. We, again, appreciate the presentation and continue on. We still got a lot to do to make this a terrific community. All right. So next up is our council meeting agenda review. We've got, let's see, 2 proclamations. I'm assuming Bridget would like to do the Community Development Block Grant. All right. And then Councilor Pratt asked to do the Parkinson's Awareness Month, correct? All right. And I think, let's see, Councilor Pratt is also up for Pledge of Allegiance tonight. All right. And then any questions on the consent agenda? Any issues? Looking good on that? All right. Let's see, what am I missing? Agenda, pledge, proclamations. What we're going to do before we do our roundtable, there were questions about the possible increase in crime in the city. A lot of folks are mentioning to counselors about car break-ins, catalytic converters being stolen, property crimes occurring in the city. That was a discussion that was led this morning at the Tualatin Chamber of Commerce by Chief Steele, our Sheriff Garrett, and the District Attorney for Washington County, Kevin Barton. So I put Chief Steele on the spotlight here before. If you could do a quick wrap review of what he talked about this morning, because it's very enlightening what's going on and how the Tualatin Police Department is reacting to it.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, today we had a great meeting with the chamber. It was well over an hour meeting, so I'm going to compress it in about 5 minutes here. So myself, the DA, Sheriff Garrett. So obviously the sheriff and the DA are elected officials, so their message might be a little bit different than mine will be. But it was a good conversation about what we face here in Tualatin and how that is tied to the much larger region that we live in. The reality is, the pandemic has taken its toll on what we deal with and how we've been dealing with issues in the community. So we live in a very safe community, no doubt about it. We haven't had a homicide, knock on wood, since 2018, but we have a lot of other types of issues that occur. We're an active community, some good activity, some not so great activity. So property crimes is kind of on everybody's radar for valid reasons. There's no doubt about it. We've seen a significant increase in catalytic converter thefts, stolen vehicles, business break-ins. There's a lot going on in our community, and I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those. Or I'll compress it even more than that. So stolen vehicles, for example, in 2019, we had 64 stolen vehicles in our community. In 2021, that number went up to 122. And we arrest a lot of people. We arrested 30 some people last year for being in stolen vehicles. But what we see is these folks aren't living in our community. They're bringing cars in that are stolen from outside the area and then stealing cars here and taking them somewhere else. And they're using those in different types of crimes. And I mentioned in the meeting this morning, just for example, yesterday morning, one of our officers rolled up on an occupied stolen vehicle on the Church 115th and Tualatin Road. Get out to contact the individual. The guy throws it in reverse, slams it into the patrol car, and then takes off on Highway 99. So we initially tried to stop that vehicle, but for that type of crime, vehicle pursuits are very, very dangerous. So when that risk to the public outweighs the need for immediate apprehension, we cannot pursue vehicles like that. It was at 99 up into Tiger, Durham Road area. So there's a lot of traffic even at noon on a Sunday afternoon. So we can't pursue that vehicle. It really kind of shows the brazen attempts to get away that we're seeing. We're right on the I-5-205 corridor. So some of our retail locations are getting significantly impacted by shoplifters. Most of our retail locations won't actively try to stop shoplifters. They'll try to observe what's going on and then call us. We have a great response time, there's no doubt about it, but even the seconds it takes us to get there, sometimes they can be on I-5 or 205 and be long gone and out of our area. The DA presented some great information on the cases that they prosecute and the number of people that are prosecuted that don't live in Washington County that are coming from a Portland area address. It's significant numbers of people. The sheriff talked about the jail and the impact that COVID has had on the jail. In a normal year, they book about 18,000 people a year into the Washington County Jail. In 2021, it was down to 10,000. They had to do that because of COVID issues. They can't put people in tight areas like that. They had just as many COVID outbreaks in the jail as everywhere else in the world. So what that forces us to do is when we catch people committing crimes, we can't lodge them in a jail. So we give them a ticket to show up for court later on down the road. And most of the time they don't show up. So we have an already existing complex criminal justice system, but then things like this start to throw those wrenches into it, and it really just starts to break down. And it emphasizes issues that we have existing pre-pandemic. The sheriff and the DA talked about our larger criminal justice system need in Washington County. Our jail is the smallest per capita of anywhere in Oregon. The district attorney's office has fewer deputy DAs to prosecute the cases compared to other counties around us. So it really starts to show when these things start to occur, how we struggle in some ways. The car break-ins. I just noticed on Nextdoor that somebody had a couple cars broken into at the community park over the weekend. The windows were smashed, purses were taken. It's things like that. Even the stolen vehicles. We had a lot of cars stolen last year where people left their keys in their car, in their driveway, or in a business. It's an easy opportunity for people to take advantage of that. So businesses, they could help us out by, not doing things like that, having a good alarm system in place that calls the police first as opposed to calling the owner of the business, has good video. Residential areas, don't leave valuables in your cars, lock up your cars. Most of the cars that we have entered are unlocked, and they're taking, laptops and things out of unlocked cars. So we got to have that partnership with the community because it's really starting to show people are taking advantage of those opportunities. So there's just a lot going on. There's probably going to be some more of a push again by the DA and the sheriff about how to address longer term issues, the court capacities, the jail capacities, things like that. again, overall, we do fairly well in our community. We have currently a fully staffed police department. Our officers out there being very, very active. That's kind of unique compared to what goes on around us, but we've got our challenges for sure in the community.
Thanks, Chief. All right. So with that, I very much appreciate that update. You did boil that down pretty quickly. Terrific job. The discussion earlier this morning. All right. So with that, I'll go ahead and start the round table. And Councilor Hillier, you're first one on my screen.
I'm going to defer. I didn't bring my notes with me. Councilor Sacco, are you comfortable reporting on our SRO meeting? I apologize.
No worries.
I had them and yeah. So that is it. Thanks.
All right. So Councilor Sacco.
So we attended, Cindy and Councilor Hillier and I attended the SRO meeting, and it's always an interesting meeting. We got into the weeds a little bit, which was great to see some of the numbers that the SROs have presented, and the numbers indicated who is being arrested at this school or referred out to additional services at the school. And when I say who, I mean demographics, and who is being coached and then I guess sort of given a slap on the hand and moved on, or maybe I shouldn't say slap on the hand, coached and the situation is then resolved instead of being referred out. And so we had a lot of discussion around those numbers, which were really eye-opening and really great. And it's probably too much to get into now, but I think if anybody has any questions on what those numbers are and some more about that discussion, you can reach out to either one of us and we'd be happy to share that information, or I guess we can just send an email out if that's something that everybody's interested in. But it was a very interesting conversation for sure. And it got pretty emotional as well. But I really appreciate being a part of that committee and listening to those conversations. And I think that it is a wonderful committee that will have impact in the future for sure. That was the only meeting I attended.
Councilor Pratt.
I am the third. I attended the C4 meeting, and actually we didn't just talk about tolling, but the TPAC meeting the next day was discussed, and we heard about Clackamas County workforce development, which was pretty amazing. And because I'm very curious about this tolling thing, I did attend the TPAC meeting as a listener, and amazingly ODOT seems to be caving somewhat, because there are two amendments, not as much as some of us would like, but so there was the Regional Transportation Plan Amendment, and then there's the Metro Transportation Plan Amendment. And on the regional one, ODOT is willing to add some language that was requested. A lot of it came from Clackamas County, and they're agreeing to enhance the connection between the Regional Mobility Project and I-205 tolling. They're not saying they're not going to do I-205 tolling first. They're just saying that they will have approval from the federal government or approval from the regional partners, meaning people like us, before they'll move forward with the I-205. So we will know we were not just going to have I-205 and be stuck with that for who knows how long, that the other one will be in process to some degree. The other big issue was equity. So they agreed that they would support, this was on the I-205 project, support recommendations from the Equity Mobility Advisory Committee. And then on the regional transportation, it was a lot with the NEPA process, the environmental process. And they agreed to demonstrate how pricing system, I'm reading this, is truly managing travel demand and will actually reduce greenhouse gases. And then they will include income-based strategies and revenue projections, and that they will come up with plans for a transit multimodal corridor strategy. So show how they're going to use. And there was some wording in there too about the use of the funds after these projects are completed, because nobody's gotten an answer on that one yet. So it was a huge step forward for ODOT, but I think they were pretty concerned these amendments weren't going to get passed. So it was a compromise, I think, that so I have a C4 Metro meeting this Wednesday and Thursday. These amendments will go to the joint JPAC, the Transportation Committee. They will make a recommendation to Metro. They will vote on it this Thursday. That recommendation will go to Metro, and then Metro is going to vote on it in mid-April. I will keep you updated on that. We had our council and advisory appointments. I'll leave it at that because 2 other of my counselors were there. I did this morning attend the chamber presentation. I think right before I came in late, and the mayor left right like 5 minutes after I popped in. So between us, I think we heard the whole thing. I was also struck with the one thing that the chief did a great job of kind of condensing that, but the Sheriff Garrett was also talking about that there's a skyrocketing use of meth and heroin in our community, and that they're just seeing the effects, whatever meth's out there now, the effects are deteriorating people's mental abilities very quickly. So there's a lot of concern behind that too. That's all I have.
Thank you. Council Brooks.
Thank you. Yeah, I also attended the council on advisory appointments, and I just want to share too that we have 2 committees that we have student representation for that hasn't been filled. One's the Parks Committee, and one is the Arts Committee. So please help spread the word, and any students that are out there that are interested, we really want to keep those youth perspectives in both of those committees. So I just want to mention that. And as usual, we had great people willing to serve, and never have enough room for everybody, but we're looking forward to the new people serving, and thanking the people that are applying for reinstatement. And then I had the PAB meeting, and that was focused. I mentioned last time, I think, that the director is leaving after 28 years, and she's amazing, Jenny Proctor, and the mayor used to chair the PAB before he became the mayor, and so he knows too. So we spent the time with the hiring committee. She gave a lot of notice, but helping to determine qualities and assets that we would like to see in the person that is going to be filling her very large shoes. And I think that's all I've got. I had a lot of, I will say, I had other meetings outside city business, but one of the things just to remind people is next month is Earth Day, and there's on the 22nd itself, there's a volunteer things through the city, Friday the 22nd for Earth Day, and then I think the Tualatin Sustainability Network is going to do a trash pickup on the 23rd, which is a Saturday, which Council President Grimes, I'm letting you know. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Councilor Reyes.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I always enjoy, I participated obviously with the rest of, with Councilor Pratt and Brooks, with the advisory committees and selecting some of our volunteers that some people that want to volunteer, and it's always great. I mean, we always come out thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many great people in our community. So we selected a few people, and then we'll announce their names later. But it's always a fun and exciting time for me. Exciting because I always get excited about to hear people's reason why they want to volunteer, and it's kind of humbling to hear they're wanting to do this. The other activity that I participated is not so much an advisory committee, but it is part of our community. So I attended this group called Grupo Pili, which meets on Saturdays at 10:30 at the library, and it's a group of ladies that come together to talk about how to improve their lives on being great mothers or leaders or business owners, or finding things that are to better their health, and even like share ideas amongst each other. And that was a really great meeting to attend. A lot of the women are from our community. Some come from as far as Happy Valley. So I thought that was interesting that they come every Saturday. They've lived here in the past, like rented an apartment, or have, I guess at one point they were part of the community. They moved out, but they still come to the meetings. So I thought that was a really great opportunity. Betsy invited me. They told Betsy about it, so it was just really good because I was able to talk to them about what we talk about in our city council, and I invited them too, and we're just amazed about the leadership that we have, and also that we also have a volunteer group of city council members. So they actually, and the mayor, they didn't know that. They thought that we were paid employees. And so that was really an eye-opener for them, and also it gives them respect. They respect the position a little bit more, as far as like, I also have to go to work and make time to go to these meetings because I have a responsibility to the community. So they felt like they actually were very encouraged that we have a group of people that serve on our council that are volunteers, and that go through the same struggles that they go, as far as working, finding kids to babysitting, or finding time to read the materials and making decisions that are going to affect the community in a positive way or negative way, however people look at it. So that was a fun. I thought it was very beneficial, and I want to continue to attend those meetings. I also promoted the equity committee that we're trying to build within the city, and they were interested. They want to know a little bit more, so I'm sure they'll reach out to Betsy for if they have any questions. But I was an opportunity for me to promote our recruiting of a diverse and equity committee. So we'll see what happens, but I was really happy to be part of that group of ladies and learn more about them, and they learn a little bit more about me and also the city. So that was what I've done in the last couple weeks. But I mean, besides Africa, of course, took a little while to get back to my routine, but I'm back to my routine. So I'm not waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning or going to bed like at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So, thank you.
Right. Well, welcome back. Council President Grimes.
Hello, thank you. We had an architectural review board meeting last week, and we worked on what will be the new development that will be going in place of the Tualatin Island Greens complex, which is closing. So that was sort of a bittersweet thing, because I've always enjoyed that complex and the restaurant and everything. So the end of putt-putt golf for a while. But there's a huge facility going in. It's a giant warehouse complex, and it will be the largest in the city of Tualatin. And to give you an idea, the east-west width is 3 football fields. So this is going to be massive. Majority of, well, almost all of the traffic from the facility will go on to 124th. So hopefully we'll see that particular roadway used as we had sort of envisioned all these years of taking heavy truck traffic north-south, either to the 99 I-5 or straight down south onto I-5. It was a great process. There was a lot of questions. I'm absolutely humbled by the people that have been serving on that committee for many, many years. Professional engineers, professional architects, professional landscape architects. I mean, the wealth of knowledge of community volunteers that sit on that committee is just absolutely, it's staggering. You learn so much from these dedicated professionals. And what I really love about it is their absolute commitment to the best of, what can be in their community. And to see people taking such care and having such, careful consideration of this giant warehouse complex to make sure that everything from the landscaping around it is appropriate and adds to the beauty of the community, that the facade is done in such a way that it's pleasing to the eye for people driving by on 124th. It goes so far beyond sort of the nuts and bolts of, is it the right size, the right place? Does it have the right, water treatment and drainage, the ingress, egress going out on the 124th or side pole? It goes so far beyond that. And the care that they take with the decision is really, it's amazing. So anyhow, we got that approved, put a couple conditions on it for some aesthetic upgrades and some landscaping upgrades, but got that handled. Construction will be going on this summer. That's how quickly that particular project is going to get going. And then also, it's been kind of quiet because of COVID, but now projects are bubbling up like crazy. So there's going to be a lot of things in the coming months. Steve mentioned we'll have a lot of projects coming up. SEPA will be one of them, the development coming up in Salt Creek. So anyway, it was a great project, great volunteers, and we have a lot of construction and big projects breaking ground here in the city in the coming months.
Thank you. At the March Metro Mayors Consortium meeting, Homeland Security did a presentation on the programs that they have that help cities, especially smaller cities, combat cybersecurity attacks. So that contact information and links I'm going to shoot off to Bates because it's particularly interesting how they share information with different cities and best practices. And there's also grant programs available for smaller cities to combat, the nasties coming after our website, after our email, all that good stuff that, when we have a very small IT department, it could be overwhelming. We also talked about, here we are with the short session just ended, and we started talking about the 2023 long session and dividing up who's going to be on what subcommittees. So we can see what we're going to focus in on before the session starts, who we need to talk to. As you've read, there's quite a number of folks who are leaving the legislature who've been there for a while. So there's going to be a lot of new people to deal with and educate in the 2023 session. And one of the things we ended up the meeting discussing, and we are crafting an op-ed, is supporting a change to how Oregon legislators are paid. We lost Rachel Prusak. We will lose Rachel Prusak due to this, that our legislators are pretty much underpaid. They're paid approximately $33,000 under the assumption that it's a part-time job. As we all know, it is not a part-time job any longer. It is pretty much a full-time job, and it requires a full-time pay. Because just as we have the challenger as a city council, that with this kind of condition, it makes it very difficult for many people to take this kind of role. That only certain people can fill the position of an Oregon state legislator because the pay is not there and it takes a lot of time. So they want to, the mayors are asking to have this looked at again in 2023 in terms of equity and diversity, to have as many new faces and diverse faces as possible in the Oregon legislature. Later that afternoon, we had the Small Cities Consortium meeting. And that was primarily, it was interesting hearing Metro's government affairs person, who is Annalise Kohler, wrap up the session and how Metro saw it versus how cities saw it. A lot of, pretty much a lot of good consensus, but a little bit different opinions on certain Senate bills. On Saturday, I had my first mayor's coffee in 2 years. It was a lot of fun. I lucked out. It was gorgeous Saturday morning. Sunny blue skies at Tualatin Community Park. Had quite a few people come by, just randomly just walking by. The park is, as you know, packed on Saturday mornings, especially when it's beautiful. So when people saw free coffee and donuts, they kind of moved up and came over and chatted. People had a lot of good questions, dispersed a lot of good information. One of the things that is outstanding to me is I met a very young couple from Beaverton that says they love our parks. They come to Community Park every weekend because Beaverton's parks don't touch ours. They like the amenities in Community Park, the access to the river, the kayaking. They said, these are things we don't have in Beaverton, so we're willing to drive here every weekend to enjoy your parks. I'm like, when you moving here? And they said, well, once home prices come down, we're going to move here. Because as we all hear, the challenge for a young couple to get a home here in Tualatin, it's a very, it's a big challenge, and they live in an apartment in Beaverton, but they do want to live in our city. So I thank them for coming. And then this morning, or actually this afternoon, Washington County Coordinating Committee, a couple of things. We finished up the review of the MSTIP evaluation criteria. So that will move on the process on how projects will be evaluated. The call for projects is going to be coming out this summer for the next MSTIP program. That's the Washington County Transportation Programs that is paid by taxes. Different roads, for example, Tualatin Sherwood Road is an example of an MSTIP project where we're getting the additional lanes. Imagine this, Valerie, we talked about 205 tolling too. And pretty much the exact same letter you were mentioning that ODOT did concede, in my mind, a lot. They've pushed back tremendously. And as Valerie mentioned, the first item is they're calling the Regional Toll Policy Committee, that those communities that are impacted by tolling will comprise this committee and advise ODOT and the Oregon Transportation Commission on tolling. So we'll actually be at the table to talk about it. ODOT conceded that. They also conceded, as Valerie mentioned, that they will not put one toll gate into effect until the whole region plan is done. Because as Councilor Pratt was mentioning, what happens if the toll gates go up on 205 and the feds say, that's as far as you can go. And we just had this solitary toll gate area on 205, which is, ODOT wasn't, they kicking and screaming, but they agreed to that. And transit, we have to look at transit, east-west connectivity, and multimodal transportation options, east-west, for those folks who are not going to be able to afford this toll. As we saw last month, Garrett Pryor, former Tualatin City employee, they're talking maybe 60 cents to $2, but we don't, who knows? One of our fears, today we were discussing, what if it goes to $10? Other communities, their surge pricing really surges. And at this point, we want to make sure, as Councilor Pratt said, with the equity part of it, that people can afford to get back and forth to work. And then we talked about the I-5 Boone Bridge. There was a request at I believe it's JPAC, or it's at Metro, to add auxiliary lanes to the Boone Bridge to get people over that bridge quicker. Everything was going well until a very vocal group said no more lanes, no more pavement, kill the project. Metro was actually listening to this and put a pause on the I-5 Boone Bridge construction. So the Washington County Coordinating Committee is going to write a letter in support of getting those auxiliary lanes put on the Boone Bridge. As was mentioned as Laura earlier today, all it takes is one little choking point. It's the Boone Bridge is a major choke point on I-5. If you've driven there in the late afternoons, Thursdays, and especially Fridays, you sit there and crawl through Wilsonville for about 30 minutes, and there's nothing there. There's no traffic accidents. There's nothing. So we need to get that resolved. But there's some folks who oppose expanding the bridge. And finally, we talked, I think, about this 1 meeting ago, 2 meetings ago. The DLCD rulemaking process, climate friendly, is kicking into high gear. This is the month where they're going to accept testimony and make a decision on how to move forward on the rulemaking. Everyone is still very concerned about restrictions on parking, about the ability to make changes to your transportation plans, the unfunded mandate of doing these programs that we're not going to get paid for. How are we going to pay for it to comply with these programs? And the unrealistic timelines they want this done by. So every mayor, city, the county, everyone's writing letters to DLCD to say, basically slow your roll. Let's take a little bit more time on this. We don't want to be, no one's really opposing the goals of this. We just need time to digest it. And with that, that's all I've got. Those were all the big meetings I was at in the last couple of weeks. But I do want to thank folks who came to the coffee, because the donuts were a big hit. People like donuts, that's for sure. But I enjoyed it. It's been a while doing it. It's great to sit there and chat with people in a relaxed atmosphere, just one-on-one, and find out what's going on. I told them what I see, and they told me what they're seeing in their neighborhood. So it's good. So with that, we have about 5 minutes left. Go ahead and take a break, and we'll start back up at 7 o'clock.